is video number 2 in the Soft Serve Ice Cream Cone series. In the first video, I showed you how to create this cone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the ice cream. First of all, use the zoom tool to magnify the top part of the ice cream cone here so that you can see what you're doing. Next, go over to the shape tools, click and hold, and select the ellipse tool. In my stroke and fill, I have the fill set to none and the stroke is set to black. Now I'm simply going to click and drag out an oval, and if I hold down the space bar, I can move that oval around, and then when I let go of the space bar, I can continue to change the size and the shape of the oval. So that is approximately the size that I want. Now I will make the second one, so click and drag out an oval, hold down the space bar so that I can move it until I get it to the approximate shape that I want, something like that. And now the third oval, hold down the space bar, move it around until I get the right shape, and that looks pretty good right there. Now to make the top part, I'm going to switch tools to the pin tool. So I'm going to start with the pin tool right at this tip right here. So I'm going to click and drag up, and I want this little handle to match the angle of the ice cream. So that looks good about like that. Now I'm going to continue to click and drag and then match the little handle, these handles right here, to the curve of the ice cream. So down here a little bit, click and drag, match the curve, click and drag, and click and drag out those handles to match the curve. Now in this area, I'm going to have to click a little closer together because it's a pretty drastic curve. So click and drag, click and drag. Now when I get to the last point here, what I want to do is make sure that they touch the beginning point and the end point. But when I do click and drag, I get this weird distortion that happens. So to fix that, simply hold down Alt on the keyboard, grab this handle, and move it back to the direction that it's supposed to go. Now I will use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and I'll go around and make some adjustments so that this is nice and smooth. And I want to make sure that there's no unsightly bumps. And I want this this point here to be rounded instead of pointy. So let me show you what that looks like. If I go to Window and Stroke, and in the Stroke panel, if I open this side menu and show options, I have all of these options down here. So if I have the corners set to pointy, then I have this pointy corner, but I can also set it to round, or I can set it to bevel join. I think round looks good for this ice cream because ice cream is kind of soft. So there's all of my pieces. What I'm going to do next is use the selection tool and click and drag a selection around all of these, being careful not to accidentally select the cone down here. Now I'm going to open Pathfinder and choose the first option, which is Unite, because next I'm going to do these highlights here that are on the ice cream cone. So to do that, I'm going to use the pen tool again, and I'll start with this one. So I'll click and drag, and it's the same thing that we did when we made the cone. We're following the angle of this highlight with the handles that we pull out. Now when I get to this end point here, I'm going to click and drag, and before I let go of the mouse, I'm going to hold down the Alt key and make this handle go around the corner, and then I will continue to click and drag and match those curves with the angle of the handle. And when I get to this area here where there's a drastic curve, I'm going to have to slow down and put my points a little bit closer together. And when I get to the last one, remember what happens when I click and drag, I get that weird distortion there. But I can hold down Alt and bring these handles back to the way that they are supposed to be. Whoopsies. Okay. So now I'm going to use the direct selection tool, and I'm going to go back, and any of these that look a little weird or distorted, I'm going to make them look a little better. So, all right, so this area is giving me a little bit of trouble, so I'm going to magnify it and see exactly what's going on here. So there we go. And this looks a little weird here. So that's better. Okay, so now I'll use Control minus to shrink that down so it fits. Now I would go back and do all of the rest of these highlights, but I've actually already done that, so they're right here, and I'll just delete the one that I just made. There we go, and I'll use these. So it looks like it needs to be moved over a tiny bit. There we go. All right, so now to make them the colors, we will go ahead and do the ice cream first. So I'll select that and then go to Window, Swatches, and open my Swatch to Library color books. And my favorite palette is True Match. There's my True Match colors. I'll go ahead and put them over here. And I'll choose, oh, maybe this will be raspberry flavored. So maybe this right here. Okay, so you can see that covered my highlights. So I'll simply click that layer in the Layers panel and drag it underneath the highlights. Now, I don't need a black stroke, so I'll click to bring the stroke forward and set it to none. And now for these, I'm simply going to use the eyedropper tool and click on the cone here so that I can have those attributes added to the highlights. Now, I could leave them that color, or I could go to Window, Appearance, and in the Appearance panel, I can open the opacity options, and right now it's on soft light. I might want to keep it that way, or I could put it on something else and see what the other options are. But I think I'll leave it on soft light, and I think that looks pretty good. So the last thing that I need to do is change the order. So this ice cream needs to go behind the cone. So I'll find the ice cream in the Layers panel over here and drag it down. There we go. And oh, it looks like these also need to go down there. And now I'm ready to put my background on this. So I will get the rectangle tool. So click and hold on the ellipse tool, grab the rectangle, click and drag a rectangle around this, and click to bring the fill forward if you need to. Choose a color for that. I'll choose this nice bright blue color. I'll click and drag to bring that to the background. There we go. Now the last thing that I need is my shadow. So for the shadow, I'm going to make a copy of the cone and the ice cream. So let me move this out of the way. So here's the ice cream. I'll drag it down here to the New Layer button. And then I'll get this part of the cone make a copy of it, drag it down here, and this part of the cone, make a copy of it, and drag the copy down here. So I have the, let's see, the top part of the cone. So I'll click inside this circle right here to make sure that I have this little box, and hold down Shift, and I'll click my copy of the ice cream and click my copy of the bottom part of the cone. Now I'll use Pathfinder, which I have open right over here, and I'll click the first one, which is Unite. Now with the selection tool, I will simply move that over a few with the arrow keys and move it down a few, and I will get the eyedropper tool and click one of my patterns there, and I already have my appearance panel open, so I'll change the blend mode to overlay and deselect that, and there is my finished project. That's it for this video.